Today is March 17th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you this morning as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today, we're going to be reading out of the Big Book, The Vicious Cycle, pages 223 through 225. And out of the 12 and 12, we're going to be reading Step 10, the first part of page 88. Hope you all are doing okay this morning. Life is good here. Can't complain. Got my coffee. Hey, I woke up this morning. I'll take it. So anyways, let's get to the good stuff. All right, my friends. So if you'll recall from yesterday's reading, we are in Fifth Testimony in the Pioneers of AA, The Vicious Cycle. Subheading says, how it finally broke a Southerner's obstinacy and destined this salesman to start AA in Philadelphia. And this poor guy, we already see that his life is becoming unmanageable. I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm starting to see a pattern here with these people. And during his time in the First World War, he hears the news that, hey, Armistice Day is about to approach us. And he celebrates a little early with his good old friend John Barleycorn. So he almost got in trouble, but since it was the end of the war, he got away with it. But he does admit that, at this point, at 19 years old, he had a real strong feeling he was an alcoholic. And obviously we see that his life is becoming unmanageable. So we're going to build on that today. Starting on page 223, we're going to read to 225 today. Halfway down 223. With the war over and back in Baltimore with the folks, I had several small jobs for 3 years. And then I went to work soliciting as one of the first 10 employees of a new national finance company. What an opportunity I shot to pieces there. This company now does a volume over $3 billion annually. 3 years later, at 25, I opened and operated their Philadelphia office and was earning more than I ever have since. I was the fair-haired boy, all right. But 2 years later, I was blacklisted as an irresponsible drunk. It doesn't take long. My next job was in sales promotion for an oil company in Mississippi, where I promptly became a high man and got lots of pats on the back. Then I turned 2 company cars over in a short time and bingo, fired again. Oddly enough, the big shot who fired me from this company was one of the first men I met when I later joined the New York AA group. He had also gone all the way through the ringer and had been dry 2 years when I saw him again. After the oil job blew up, I went back to Baltimore and Mother, my first wife having said a permanent goodbye. Then came a sales job with a national tire company. I reorganized their city sales policy, and 18 months later, when I was 30, they offered me a branch managership. As part of this promotion, they sent me to their national convention in Atlantic City to tell the big wheels how I'd done it. At this time, I was holding what drinking I did down to weekends, but I hadn't had a drink at all in a month. I checked into my hotel room and then noticed a placard tucked under the glass on the bureau stating, "There will be positively no drinking at this convention," signed by the president of the company. That did it. Who, me? The big shot? The only salesman invited to talk at the convention? The man who was going to take over one of their biggest branches come Monday? I'll show them who's boss. No one in that company saw me again. 10 days later, I wired my resignation. As long as things were tough and the job a challenge, I could always manage to hold on pretty well. But as soon as I learned the combination, got the puzzle under control, and the boss to pat me on the back, I was gone again. Routine jobs bored me, but I would take on the toughest one I could find and work day and night until I had it under control. Then I'd become tedious, and I'd lose all interest in it. I could never be bothered with the follow-through, and would invariably reward myself for my efforts with that first drink. After the tire job came the 30s, the depression, and the downhill road. In the 8 years before AA found me, I had over 40 jobs, selling and traveling, one thing after another, and the same old routine. I'd work like mad for 3 or 4 weeks without a single drink, save my money, pay a few bills, and then reward myself with alcohol. Then I'd be broke again, hiding out in cheap hotels all over the country, having one-night jail stands here and there, and always that horrible feeling, what's the use? Nothing is worthwhile. Every time I blacked out, and that was every time I drank, there was always that gnawing fear. What did I do this time? Once I found out, many alcoholics have learned that they can bring their bottle to a cheap movie theater and drink, sleep, wake up, drink again in the darkness. I had repaired to one of these, one morning with my jug, and when I left late that afternoon, I picked up a newspaper on the way home. Imagine my surprise when I read in page one's box that I had been taken from the theater unconscious around noon that day, removed by ambulance to a hospital, and stomach pumped and then released. Evidently, I'd gone right back to that movie with a bottle, stayed there several hours, and started home with no recollection of what had happened. Okay, wow. Some interesting stuff here with his drunkalog. Definitely want to come back to this in just a minute. All right, guys. So if you recall from yesterday, we finished up step 9 in the 12 and 12, and we're moving our way to step 10, these lifetime steps here, which is continue to take a personal inventory, and when we are wrong, promptly admitted it. So we're going to read the first 2 paragraphs on page 88. As we work the first 9 steps, we prepare ourselves for the adventure of a new life. But when we approach step 10, we commence to put our AA way of living to practical use, day by day, in fair weather or foul. Then comes the acid test. Can we stay sober, keep an emotional balance, and live to good purpose under all conditions? A continuous look at our assets and liabilities and a real desire to learn and grow by this means are necessities for us. We alcoholics have learned this the hard way. More experienced people, of course, in all times and places, have practiced unsparing self-survey and criticism. For the wise have always known that no one can make much of this life until self-searching becomes a regular habit, until he is able to admit and accept what he finds, and until he patiently and persistently tries to correct what is wrong. Oh man, beautiful stuff just in those first 2 paragraphs. I love the line, more experienced people, of course, in all times and places have experienced unsparing self-survey and criticism. For the wise have always known that no one can make much out of this life until self-searching becomes a regular habit. This personal inventory that we take each day, I always like how Joe and Charlie kind of explained it. They literally gave a little checklist of things you could do at the end of the day to just kind of check, was I selfish? Was I self-centered here? What corrective measures can I take next time? And I love this part. It says, until he's able to admit and accept what he finds, until he patiently and persistently tries to correct what is wrong. I like the patiently and persistently part. I guess I need to be reminded to be more patient with myself. I want to slam my foot on the gas and I want to go and I want to see progress right away. I want to see all these tangible results. And there will be some things, like I've said before, that the God of my understanding removed pretty quickly. But there's also been some things that, yeah, it might be removed, but guess what I do? I pick it right back up. Here's one of them. Pride. I can have an ego sometimes. I don't want to, but my actions oftentimes prove it. I'm like, ooh, I did that for me. Or, ooh, I want to be the best at this. Or, oh man, I want to do this myself instead of having God do this. I can pick that up so subconsciously, I don't realize I'm doing it. And that's why this personal inventory oftentimes helps me. I check my motives, and then if I realize I've been self-centered or selfish in some of the decisions I've made throughout the day, for me, I write about it or I pray about it, and I give it back to my higher power, and try to correct this wrong, admit the wrong, and try to correct it. I have to be patient and persistent. I can't let up on this. I have to do it every day and multiple times throughout the day. I really love Step 10's breakdown. I think it's on pages 85 and 86 of the big book, where they literally tell you what to do. As first thing we wake up, God, please direct my thinking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. All throughout the day when we face indecision. And then it even tells you what to do at night. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. I love those few pages in the big book because they literally break down practically what we as alcoholics can do to try to live a better life with integrity and humility. And that's the kind of life I want to live. So it's amazing. When I follow those things, when I literally do what it tells me to do, I feel so much better about things. I have so much more peace. But how often do I take the ball and try to do it myself and forget about that? Even after all these years, I've got to work at it. So as I'm saying this out loud to you, my friends, I've got some homework to do. I'm going to read those 2 pages as soon as we're done recording this. And I am going to make sure that I'm putting that into practice today, March 17th. So yeah, really grateful for this, reading today and this accountability. And going back to our friend real fast, poor guy. Every time he gets a pretty grueling job, it sounds like he's got a little pride in what he's doing. Speaking of pride a minute ago, he doesn't want just your average job. No, he wants the hardest one. He even says a few times, I'll show them. Who do they think they're talking to? Do they realize who I am? You hear the pride in some of those statements, and then look what happens. Poor guy. The latest Drunkalog, he's in a movie theater. Finds out, he gets a paper, finds out that he's in an article. And the article is printing that he passed out in the movie theater. He had to be taken out by ambulance, had his stomach pumped out. And sure enough, he's back in the movie theater, which makes me wonder who let him back in. So that's immediately what I thought of when I read that. But poor guy. I mean, you see how out of control his drinking is becoming. He's gone through dozens of jobs at this point, in his 30s. And that's when drinking really turned on me as well. In my 30s, it just got worse. But, that's the cunning, baffling part of this disease. And it's powerful. I don't want to leave that word out. It's certainly powerful. And as I've said, my friends have told me it's also patient. It's no respecter of persons. Doesn't matter how many years you have sober. If we were to go back out and relapse, from all the stories I've heard from friends, it's very rarely better. It's almost always so much worse. But one thing I don't think I've talked about very much, if we relapse, what amazes me is I've seen people relapse and they come back. If that happens to be you, if you do relapse, that doesn't throw away all the days of sobriety that you had. If you have the courage to return to whatever fellowship and get back on the horse and be honest and hold yourself accountable, I have so much respect for you. That takes a lot of guts, a lot of fortitude. And we're not always going to get it right the first time. I've relapsed. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to stop drinking. I'd be good for another month or something like that, and then I'd start convincing myself. Most of us probably have. But I guess what I'm trying to say is just keep coming back. Don't give up. You're not a failure. You don't have to be. Just get back up. Be honest. And I think a lot of people don't come back to whatever fellowship because they're ashamed or they're embarrassed or they just don't want to come back. But let me tell you something. The first couple, being ashamed or embarrassed, don't be. The fellowships that I've gone to in the past, nobody has ever shamed the person for coming back. Nobody. You know what I see in fellowships? People hugging the one who comes back and saying, oh, thank God you're back in the lifeboat with us. What can we do to help you? That's what I see. So don't listen to the lie that, they're never going to look at me the same way now that I've relapsed. No. We're all suffering from this malady, and we know how cunning, baffling, powerful, and patient this disease can be. Just keep coming back. Thank you so much for joining me in this lifeboat of recovery today. I hope you all have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.